Devi Ward from Authentic Tantra, and I am here with another episode of Sex as Medicine TV, here to answer your questions about sexuality, health, Tantra, all that good, juicy stuff. So thank you so much for your questions that you so graciously send to us. So today I'm going to answer a question about how often should a man ejaculate. So this is just kind of a universal question that we get probably about 10 times a week. So how often should you ejaculate? Okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying that this video, I'm speaking specifically to men who have already broken their addiction to ejaculation. Okay, so you are on board with semen retention. You're like, heck yeah, I want to retain my semen. So how long do I retain my semen? So if you're just starting out with semen retention, FYI, when you have the proper techniques and the proper guidance, because really semen retention is hard to learn from a book. I'm just saying, I have not seen it done successfully. Okay. So if you're trying to learn it from a book or you're just trying to do it on your own, you may or may not have some success, but I'm going to tell you it's a lot faster and it's a lot easier if you have the proper techniques and the proper guidance about how to use those techniques effectively. What I have seen in the work that I've done, and I've worked with literally hundreds of men, is that, again, with the proper guidance and proper techniques, it usually takes about 4 to 8 weeks of consistent practice to separate orgasm from ejaculation in the nervous system. Okay, so if you're willing to go 4 to 8 weeks with no ejaculation, that's usually how long it takes to separate those two in the nervous system. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to orgasm for 4 to 8 weeks, because if you have the proper techniques, you can still orgasm, you're just not going to ejaculate. And so it separates this mechanism in your nervous system. Now, once that occurs, you are in the state of being replenished or largely replenished, because ejaculating frequently, as I'll tell you in a moment, it depletes your chi, your life force, your energy. And so you need to go through this regenerating process. And that usually typically takes, as I said, about 4 to 8 weeks. So once that has been established and you are moving into being multi-orgasmic, then you get to set up your ongoing ejaculation frequency, your regular schedule of ejaculation. Okay, so there's a few things that you want to consider for this. There is no hard and fast rule for everybody. We have a universal recommendation, and I'll tell you what that is and why. But first, I want to tell you all these other things that you want to be aware of. One of the primary factors to look at in assessing your ejaculation frequency is your age. Okay. So one of the primary things that I learned when I was studying and training in Tantra, and I can't source this information exactly because it was literally 10 years ago and I cannot remember the exact text that it came out of, but I was training under a natural health practitioner and Tibetan medicine practitioner. And so the information is credible. So it takes a man under the age of 35, 3 days to recover from one ejaculation. So this is a male-bodied being in, good health. So we're not talking about you're sick or you've got some illness or, whatever. You're in good health, good shape. It takes you, at the age of 35, it takes you 3 days to recover from one ejaculation. It takes a man over the age of 35, 8 days to recover from one ejaculation. So you want to keep that in mind. So under the age 35, 3 days, over the age of 35, 8 days. So I'm going to encourage you to observe, your own frequency, like depending on your age, like what happens if you ejaculate every day compared to what happens if you ejaculate every 2 weeks. Okay. Most men notice a significant shift around 2 weeks in the way they feel when they ejaculate. So that's one thing to consider when looking at your ejaculation frequency. The other thing to consider, again, is your health, okay? So it's really, really, really important that when you ejaculate, you are in good health. You should never ejaculate when you're sick. That is just going to deplete you. It's going to degenerate you. It is like, no, don't do it. Like the Taoist texts are like, you will die. They're pretty hardcore about this stuff. But do not ejaculate when you're sick. Just don't do it. Okay, so you want to make sure that you are healthy. Now, also your body type. So in Ayurveda, I learned this from one of our students who is an Ayurvedic practitioner. And so if you know your dosha or your body type, for those of you that do, kapha body types can handle ejaculating more frequently. And I'm a kapha body type. And so it's like the stocky kind of like, kind of muscular, stocky kind of body type. Those body types can usually handle ejaculating more frequently than a vata body type, which is air. And the vatas tend to be very thin and wiry and kind of wafy. So, depending on your body type, you're going to be able to handle a different frequency of ejaculation. And this comes from the Ayurvedic tradition, as I said. The other thing that you want to take into account or keep in mind is the season. So when it's very cold, your energy is turned inward, and ejaculating is going to be more detrimental for you than when it's warmer. So in warmer climates or warmer times of the year, you can ejaculate more frequently. In colder climates, you shouldn't. And in some Taoist texts I've read, like, you should never ejaculate in the winter ever. Like, just don't ever do it. So your climate and the season of the year. In spring, there's a rise, a burst of energy that occurs planetarily, and we see it, outside in nature. There's this burst of energy, and that also happens inside of us. So ejaculating more frequently in the spring, kind of like spring cleaning too, it can be tolerated. The other thing to take into account is your Tantra practice. So some of you gentlemen are hardcore Tantra practitioners, and so you're going to be able to ejaculate more frequently than somebody who isn't. And this is because, depending on the type of Tantra that you do, if you're doing Taoist Tantra or Tibetan-based practices particularly, you're going to be doing a lot of work with your energy body. And in the Tibetan tradition, the energy body is senior to the physical body, which means if you're doing a lot of energy yoga, energy practices to boost your energy body, whether it's done sexually or non-sexually, it's going to mean that your physiological health you're going to have more vitality and more chi and more life essence. So you're going to be able to tolerate a more frequent ejaculation cycle than somebody who isn't doing any yoga, quite frankly. Okay, and so now we're coming to what we recommend at our school for Tantra, authentic Tantra. So we recommend an ejaculation frequency universally of once every 6 weeks. And this is based on the Tibetan medical tantras, which teach that semen is literally more precious than blood. So I've said this before, I'll say it again, so it's really in your brain. It takes 10 drops of food to make 1 drop of blood. It takes an entire cup of blood to make 1 drop of semen. Semen is considered distilled life essence of man, and it is precious, sacred fluid that should not be squandered. Okay, you should ejaculate mindfully and willfully, and not just as a reflex that happens at a certain point of pleasure. So taking that into account, we should not ejaculate, or you should not ejaculate more frequently than you can donate blood, right? If your semen is more precious than blood, and it takes, if you're going to do a whole blood donation, I just read it takes 8 weeks, 8 weeks between whole blood donations, then you shouldn't ejaculate more regularly than that. Typical. All that being said, once you have broken your addiction to ejaculation, you need to listen to your own body. That's primary, okay? Because ejaculating can be good for you. So I know that, in the world of semen retention, there's some controversy. Some people say you should never ejaculate ever unless you're going to have a baby or you'll die. And then there's some people who are like, oh, you should ejaculate twice a week. So there's some controversy, and I'm not sure what they're basing their recommendations on. But what I'm telling you is that, our general rule of thumb is 6 weeks, and you should always listen to your body. And this is why, particularly if you are a tantrika doing tantra, you are in a healing process, always. You are in an awakening process. You are in a clearing process. And I have seen very clearly that there are times when ejaculation can actually help a man blow through a block or clear a block. Also, semen is bonding. So if you're in a relationship where you have fluid bonding, the semen can actually support your partner in moving through a block, or it can deepen intimacy, or it can deepen feelings of connection. So if you're ejaculating mindfully and with awareness, then it actually can be medicinal when you're doing it from this perspective. So listen to your body primarily. If it's been like you've been retaining for 4 weeks and your body's like, I need to ejaculate, and you're like, no, it hasn't been 6 weeks, no, let your body ejaculate. If your body really wants to let go, do it. If your body wants to ejaculate once every 2 weeks, particularly if you're a younger guy, if you're like 27 or 30 or something like that, and your body wants to ejaculate every 2 weeks, again, once you've broken your addiction to ejaculation, because that's the key. Once you've broken an addiction, you can really trust the messages of your body. So if your body, as a tantric male, depending on your age, is telling you to ejaculate more frequently than what our recommendation is, then do that and try it out and see how you feel, because that is the best litmus test, is how do you feel? What is your experience? When you ejaculate, do you feel energized? Or do you feel depleted? If you ejaculate and feel depleted, it means you're ejaculating too frequently. Okay? If you ejaculate and you feel like, yeah, like whatever, and you want to like have more sex, then that's good. That's healthy. That's an indicator that your ejaculation frequency is correct. Okay? So notice how you feel before, notice how you feel after, and be mindful. That's what we're saying here. If your body's saying, no, I want to ejaculate once every 3 months and no more, then beautiful, listen to that. Some tantric masters ejaculate twice a year, literally, like once every 6 months. So, and again, your ejaculation frequency should lengthen. The time between your ejaculation should lengthen as you age. So in the Taoist tradition, they say a man over 60 should never ejaculate ever. Okay? So it really depends, so much of it depends on your age and also when you started retaining your semen. So if you started retaining your semen in your 20s, like, good for you. That's awesome. That means by the time you're 60, you're going to like probably never have erectile dysfunction. But if you didn't start retaining your ejaculation until you were in your 50s, you have a lifetime to recover from. So your ejaculation frequency should be very, very, very minimal. It should be very, very infrequent. Okay? So I hope that answered your question and didn't confuse you more. It's hard, to just universally answer this question. We're so accustomed to working. We really work one-on-one with people to get a feel for where they're at and really help them determine their own ejaculation frequency, because truly it really depends on so many factors, and it really depends on what's going on with you and your body and your health and your practice. What's going on in your practice in your life. So again, I support you in learning the methods to separate orgasm from ejaculation. Use this information. I'm going to post some links below to a really awesome article that I wrote about the health benefits of semen retention and how to determine your ejaculation frequency, and use that information to the best of your ability. And when you're ready for some support and guidance, you let us know at authentictantra.com, and we are happy to walk you through this process.